Toledo, a hub of entertainment, art, and also the crossroads of America. I'm Tim McMahon, and I'm hitting the road and the open water to discover the history, culture, and fun times on Lake Erie. Join me for an adventure as I meet the people and tour the places during a memorable island getaway. This is One Tank Travel. Located in Erie County, the village that is Kelleys Island is 2,800 acres and 12 miles of shoreline beauty. There is more than one way to reach the island, and the One Tank crew and I opted for an early morning ferry ride out of Marblehead. Once we arrived, like many visitors to the island, we opted for golf carts as our mode of transportation. Before we got into the entertainment and culture that Kelleys Island has to offer, we got a history lesson on some of the unique aspects of the island, starting with the glacial grooves.
The grooves were cut out of Columbus limestone more than 15,000 years ago. They were from flowing water underneath the glacier. The last glacier that was here was like a mile thick. Wow. So a tremendous amount of weight and a tremendous amount of water pressure underneath. And it flowed under that ice and created these grooves. These grooves are kind of unique because of that. You can see other grooves that are where rock scraped on rock, but these were cut by hydraulic power. This used to be full. It was open to right about this tree here. This part was open, and the rest was all filled in. In the early 1970s, I guess islanders got together with shovels and wheelbarrows and hauled all this rock out.
Is it evolving, changing? Will it change shapes, you know, as time goes on? Like, does it shift underneath?
No, there's a little bit of, technically, there's a little bit of rebound happening, which creates cracks, but that's from the release of the weight of the glacier. So that's a long period of time, but the rest of it's not going to change. It's just too hard a rock.
Tourists come out here, they can't get out on the glacier's grooves, but they can definitely, you know, there's a walkway and walk around.
Walkway all the way around it.
The glaciers may have created the grooves 15,000 years ago, but the rock itself is much, much, much older.
This rock is 400 million years old. It's from the Devonian period. Okay, and you can see the fossils, and that's how they know it's Devonian.
Yeah, a little bit of life that's still preserved and, you know, seen now. I think that's really neat. So how often, I mean, do you have geologists looking at the grooves often?
We have geologists and paleontologists have been coming here forever. I guess every fossil has been cataloged at one point.
What is this hump here that we're looking at?
Well, this is kind of a unique feature, and there's several of them in here. It's called a whale's back. It's simply, geologists call it that. So
it's a technical term.
It's a technical term. It's simply it's thought that there was a rock buried in the ice of maybe like granite that's harder, and the water flowed around it and created this pattern as the water was, you know, moving very rapidly, of course. It's just neat, and everybody seems to recognize it as a whale's back.
That's really, really cool. We'll check out more of the Kelleys Island landscape with Chris Ashley shortly, but next we're off to the History Museum with Kelleys Island archivist and author Leslie Karenko.
Kelleys Island is incredible. I mean, you can't turn a corner without bumping into some history. Many years ago, one group of people led by Betty Pape got the whole island designated as a National Historic District, and that included over 100 historic properties on the island. Some were built as long ago as the 1850s.
One of those historical, you know, parts of the island is right next door. It's the church.
It is. The Old Stone Church, a German Reformed church, was built in the 1860s, and that is actually the cornerstone of our campus and our association. The church was turned over to us, and that's where we had all our meetings. That's where we had our museum initially.
Yeah, this is great. I love the acoustics. I love the peacefulness. I could definitely see like a small wedding happening here.
And we do have a bell tower up there, and if you had more time, I'd let you go up there and ring the bell.
Well, hear ye, hear ye.
The founders of the island would have been Datus and Irad Kelly. Irad went back to Cleveland, Datus stayed here and became the benevolent father to the community.
So that's who Kelleys Island is named after. Okay.
Yes.
The museum also features a hand-sewn silk wedding dress from 1863, tributes to those residents who served in the military, and a history of wine in the village.
A bottle of our wine was actually served at President Lincoln's one of his New Year's celebrations, yes.
And a lot of this is funded by is it the shop a couple doors down? What's the name of that?
That is that's the parsonage house for the church, and it's our parsonage resale shop. That started up, I believe, like 3 years ago and has become a main part of our income stream that allows us to keep the doors open.
People tell us that this is the first place they come to when they get off the ferry. They want to see what goodies we've got in now.
What's it like on a day-by-day basis, and what kind of joy do you get out of working here?
Oh, it's fun. We've gotten to know so many people, and there's always people bringing in donations.
Hi, I'm Jordan Killam. I'm director of the Kelleys Island Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. We are so happy to welcome you to the island in summer 2021. We're up and running. The Chamber is here to help you plan your trip. We can help you find that perfect place to stay. We can help you find restaurants. And don't forget to check our website for all of the events that we have happening this summer. There's so much fun to be had. Please come visit us.
Time for a break. When we return, we resume our outdoor adventure and grab a bite to eat at a downtown Kelleys Island landmark. You're watching One Tank Travel, presented by AAA Tire and Auto Service Centers. Welcome back to One Tank Travel. We're taking the adventurous route to the North Shore Alvar on a beautiful day at Kelleys Island.
We don't exactly recommend this, but
the rope's here for a reason, right?
yeah, not put here by state park people.
So this isn't, if you come out here and tour at Kelleys Island, you will not be doing this. Does this have a specific name where we are now?
This is our rock beach. It's kind of a fun place to go and look at Canada. And these are some glacial grooves back here, the type that were made by scraping, but it's just a nice calm place. And
what I think is amazing is just how clear, crystal clear and blue the water is, and it's just so unique. I didn't know this existed. It's really neat to just take it in. We're gonna go up to the Alvars?
Yep.
All right, so it's right up through here.
An alvar is the bedrock that's exposed, and some weathering element keeps the soil off of it. Most of this was protected by the Department of Natural Resources, Ohio Natural Resources, because it's a unique habitat. It's the lake keeps the soil washed off of this, so anything that grows here is pretty tough, pretty unique. There's many unique plants, and this is a very unique. It's not as unique as the glacial grooves, but it's kind of one of a kind.
Not far from the Alvar, and the last stop on our historic tour with Chris Ashley is a trip to Kelleys Island's past.
We're at the Kelleys Island Lineman Transport Crusher building. There were 2 of these on the island at one time, from like the 1880s through the 1920s.
Wait, this might be a stupid question, but what's a crusher?
When they bring the rock out of the quarries, it's all different sizes, and they can put it through the crusher, and it's essentially a plate and a big wheel.
Yeah.
You can see the back of the building there. They used to back railroad cars, the small railroad cars, up in to dump into the crusher. And then those same cars and Shea locomotives would back underneath this right here to be loaded with the stone that either went to the lime kilns, which are down by where the beach is, or to a dock, which is right where our boat ramp is, to be put on barges and sent to Cleveland and A lot of it, the lime kilns, the lime was used in the steel industry.
Was an important aspect to this island that also impacted places beyond the island.
Oh yeah, very much so. We have so much response and so many questions about this that it's been kind of my hobby. We've been clearing it out and so people can see it. You can see where they'd back the cars under. This is just one big trough, and they could open these gates to let the stone fall into the cars to be hauled down to the dock.
You know, something that I want to touch on, there's like a little like city that was built up around here, correct, for people that work?
To support this crusher and the quarry operation and the men that worked here, there were dorms all over, and there was a store building, a cooper shop to make the barrels to put the lime in, and there was just sort of a little city up here.
Little village that was built up over time, huh?
Yep.
After we parted with Chris, we headed to the Village Pump for lunch. Downtown Island favorite known for their mouth-watering Lake Erie perch and their Brandy Alexander, a frosty concoction that looks like a milkshake but is very much an adults-only beverage. This is an old recipe. How long have you been making that?
Well, we've been making it our whole lives. I moved upstairs in 1972 and lived with our family. And my sister-in-law's family, they did the Brandy Alexanders with ice cream ever since the late 40s. There used to be an ice cream parlor on the other side of the bar. And so she started putting ice cream in the Brandy Alexanders, make it enjoyable after you come off the boats, come in from the sun.
Yeah.
Normally a Brandy Alexander doesn't have ice cream, so that's something now that's quite popular in this area.
Yeah, it's very refreshing. It's delicious. Also, the perch is fantastic. That's like your signature item, would you say?
Yes, it is. It's our largest seller. The perch by far. Grandma taught us how to cook it, and that's her recipe, the homemade tartar sauce. We make it fresh every day, and we go through quite a bit of it.
I love the variety too, the tacos, the sandwich, also not perch, but the walleye bites, something that's really delicious too. The menu is amazing, but the vibes and hospitality are just as good, as owner Gary Finger, a native to the island, along with his co-owner wife, create a home environment for everyone who enters the pump.
Well, I'll tell you, we're just so proud of the island and the community. It's hard not to be. So I enjoy that, and then meeting so many people from out of town, being able to share the experience.
What's it like growing up here in Kelleys Island?
Oh, it's great. No matter what your age is, everybody takes you in. You become like family, where you're maybe not always related to everybody, but everyone's like family. Taking care of each other, I enjoy doing that.
And speaking of family, you met your wife at the Village Pump. Tell me about that story, how you guys met.
Well, it was interesting. Mom and Dad and herself came up for a 50th wedding anniversary, and the dogs our black labs ran right over their table. And I had to apologize. I'm sorry, they're not supposed to be in the restaurant. She's like, that's okay, we have labs too. And I walked around the bar and I sat down, and that was it.
That was it?
Yeah.
What's it like to be in a place where you are such a tourist destination? People come out here and see you, and you know that they're like having the best day of their life, basically.
Well, it's really enjoyable. Watching the families and, again, watching people experience what we get to enjoy every day. But sometimes I think we all tend to forget where we live. This has been our home, and we think like it's like this everywhere.
Yeah.
We realize it's not.
Thank you very much, Gary. This has been great. If you come out here, very, very gracious host. He'll come up to the table, he'll talk to you, as well as wife, and everybody here is super wonderful, so thank you very much.
Thank you. It means a lot, and I'll make sure to report in the kitchen you enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. Give my best to the chef.
All righty.
Thanks.
Hopefully I'll see you again.
Absolutely, for sure. Coming up, we wrap up our trip with a celebration of art and wine. This is One Tank Travel, presented by AAA Tire and Auto Service Centers. Welcome back to One Tank Travel. We're celebrating the history and culture of Kelleys Island and meeting residents like artist Charles Herndon. Do you go by Chuck or Charles?
Depends on who's talking to me.
Well, what can I call you?
Chuck is fine.
Chuck, thanks for having us out. This is a beautiful place. It's very tranquil and peaceful. How long have you had this, sculpture garden here?
We decided around 1998 or so to start to do this a little more seriously. For a long time, I was teaching in Columbus, 34 years. And we had a big place there, and sculpture was everywhere. And we thought it'd be nicer to bring it here.
What are we looking at when we walk around here then? Because I'm seeing a variety of things like the red mangled metal. Is that kind of a theme?
That was a theme for when I was a mangler, which is when I was a lot younger. But the steel pieces have to do more with energy in time. That one right over there is called a parallel arrangement, where I forged pieces that were relatively the same, and then I placed them next to each other for comparison.
With experience comes new visions and paths for creation. An artist for more than 60 years, Herndon's work represents the evolution of his talents.
I went to graduate school in sculpture, and so for a time there I didn't do anything but sculpture. And then I started doing a painting here, a painting there. In fact, one of the paintings in the gallery, I started in 1970 or so, and finished it maybe 10 years ago. It's called New Beginnings.
Is there a reason behind, like, the length of a project?
Well, one, I started it, and I kind of liked it, but I didn't really like it. And I had it in my sculpture studio in the back, and I began to work on it again. And it developed layer by layer by layer, and it got to the point where I love it.
The stones that you use around here, are those from Kelleys Island?
They're all from the beach. Although I guess if I were to dig around here, I'd find a few too.
Sure.
They've been brought here by the glaciers, and they're all carved out of the Canadian Shield and then brought down here. And they're the agents within the ice that cut the grooves.
How long does it take to work on something like that?
Well, months sometimes. It depends on the complexity of the form, the hardness of the rock.
What do you hope the public sees and feels when they come out here and check out your gallery and your sculptures?
I hope what happens is what does happen to some of them, that they find a peaceful place that they can kind of connect with nature and connect with the stones and the art that are here.
A staple of any good visit to Kelleys Island is a winery trip. The newest of two wineries on the island, Crooked Tree Vineyard, sits on the gorgeous Lakeshore Drive and is a product of the hard work of husband and wife team, Steve and Janet Wormuth. So Janet, we're in the vineyards now at Crooked Tree. This is really cool. Do you do tours out here like this?
When we're open in the summertime and during the season, we allow people to come and wander out here if they want to. And then if they have questions, we'll stop and hang out and answer their questions. But it's open, so people will get glasses of wine and just wander through the vineyard.
You can just come right out and see the Crooked Tree, which we're actually on our way to right now. But if you want to stop and look at some of this, so this is one of the vines, right?
Yeah, this is a Chamberson grape. So this grape grows up and then it'll canopy down. And then the Cabernet Franc grapes, we cordon along here and they grow up. But like this has been pruned one time, but now what I'll start to do is come through and pull these leaves off, because you don't want any leaves on the trunk. You want it all coming down. So we want all the energy to go up there. So we actually come out and we prune them down to where you usually want to have like 5 buds on them. So like I just kind of eyeball it, I don't actually count. And then you just clip stuff off and throw it to the ground, and then this will be our growing area. And then if you look really close here, you can see this little cluster. The next step is that'll actually turn into a little white flower, and then that's a grape cluster. And then these white nets are bird nets. And so once the sugar level, we call it the bricks, get to about 16, 17, we'll actually pull these nets down and they connect down at the bottom, and then that keeps the birds off of them. It also helps with the raccoons.
Also helping to keep the raccoons away is the Wormuth's dog, Happy.
One time he was chasing a squirrel through the vineyard, and between the squirrel and Happy, they knocked a couple vines off the cordons, but we were able to fix it. Happy out. He's a leaner. Out.
Yeah, I love it.
Good boy.
He's a leaner and a cuddler too, I assume.
Right, and there he goes again. Okay.
So each one of these makes makes it like, okay, to my right, what kind of wine would come from these grapes?
So the Cab Franc grapes, which are the ones that cordon across the bottom and then up, those are the ones that are for our Cab Franc, which is our driest red. We also make a really nice rosé out of that. There's another wine that's a sweet red that's called Four Sisters, and that's named after my sisters, because they don't like dry red. So we make the Cabernet Franc wine, and then I make grape juice out of the grapes, so it's actually sweetened with grape juice rather than with simple syrup. So when we bought the property, it was completely wooded, like the scrub trees you see around by the cow pasture and stuff. And so my husband Steve literally cleared the property himself. And as he was clearing it, I spotted this tree, and I'm like, don't cut down that crooked tree. And so we've kept this tree. The vines do not grow very well under here, but it became our hallmark. And then hanging from the crooked tree is this wind chime, and I'll get teary-eyed because my sister, who passed away from cancer, actually bought me that. And so Steve hung it there as a surprise to me. We took it from our house in Columbus, and so now when we hear the wind chime, we think about my sister and his dad and my dad and everybody we've lost.
Good way to keep that presence here and keep that family, you know, involved as part of the process as you continue to grow here. Inside, Steve prepped a wine flight for us. First of all, what's it like owning a vineyard here on Kelleys Island with your wife?
Oh, this has been our dream. We love doing it. It's a labor of love. I tell folks when they walk out there and they see the vineyard and what we've done, 80% of it Janet and I have done together. So it's definitely been our dream, and we are living it every day.
What should I go to next?
Go to the Raccoon Red.
Raccoon Red, which is right here.
Yep. So the Raccoon Red is 80% of the Cab Franc and 20% of the Chambourcin grape. The Chambourcin grapes is still a dry red, but it's more fruit forward. So when you blend it with that Cab Franc, you get this, you taste the fruit on the front end, and then you taste the dry Cab Franc on the back end.
Definitely getting that in there. One of my favorite things about going to vineyards, wineries, is the knowledge that we get, that you're putting on me right now, and that Janet gave when we were walking through the vineyards. Is this something when people come out, you know, tourists come to the island, that they can expect to talk with you and share, you know, your wisdom? Yeah,
I think that's one of the things with Janet and I running the tasting room when we were open. People like talking to the owners. They like hearing our story, asking us questions about the vineyard, and when the tasting room is open over the summer and everything, we leave the vineyard open. We say, if you want to go out there and walk around, actually I tease them and tell them there's a set of pruners out there that they can help us with. But yeah, we let people, you know, have that experience, and they seem to really enjoy it.
And I couldn't have enjoyed my visit more. We wrap this trip with a special shout out to the One Tank Travel crew for capturing a memorable day on Kelleys Island.